right, welcome back to Iran After Dark. Once again, if you are new to this channel, which everybody should be because it's only a week old channel, hit that subscribe button underneath below and the notifications as well. Brand new channel, please get me in the algorithm. The goal of this channel is to essentially get the message out there since Iran isn't a blackout and there's just a lot of misinformation in the West and in the world in general. So once again, I'm an Iranian, so it's kind of my perspective. And I do have a guest on today. My guy B-Vaz over there. What's going on, brother, man?
What up? What up? How you doing there, Mondo?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you taking the time out and joining me on this last minute little stream that we're doing.
No problem.
Yeah. And he does have his own channel. You want to go ahead and plug that just in case anybody's obviously you're not covering Iran, but
right,
just in case.
Well, I was helping you a little bit because I do take current events, what happens out overseas, not so much kind of diving in, but I do touch base asking you how things are. My channel is Vivaz711. You can look me up, you can Google it, you can search it through YouTube. Kick is also on there, Twitch through, I think it's Periscope, also Twitch. So however you want to look me up, you can. My channel is kind of like a little bit of everything. We got some drama in there, we got some gaming, we got some entertainment, all kinds of stuff. Check it out.
Yeah, if you need some comedy relief from all the miserable news and the war, BVAS711. This is a good channel to join. So go check him out on YouTube. But I guess let's start off with kind of your background for people that don't know other than YouTube. So obviously you were in the Army. So I kind of want to just, let people know where you're from and, what your background is as far as the war.
So my background is I'm a U.S. Marine veteran. Also a college graduate from Penn State with a cybersecurity degree. It's a bachelor's of science. I'm also Microsoft certified professional. I also former Microsoft certified trainer. I have over, I think it's 14 years of IT experience. And those times I was doing freelance work and all that stuff while still doing my full-time schooling. So I come with a background of pretty much tech, cybersecurity, some military as far as strategic, and some how they would look and think as far as like how battles are done, because I used to love those kinds of strategy games when I was younger. So kind of like looking at it from a world perspective on how these things act after joining the military started making sense and things were clicking. So that's pretty much what I do, other than just streaming.
Nice.
That's my background.
I think most importantly, the fact that you're, a Marine veteran, and thank you for your service. But I think that's it's very important to get people's perspectives that have been in the Army before. So, so let me ask you this, man. Obviously, I've done some streams on your channel before. So before I had a platform, I've actually done probably like 3 streams on B-Vaz's channel. So if you want to go check those out as well, and those are some of the earlier streams that we did where I think we even just did it before the war even happened. I think we were just covering the protests in Iran, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. So, obviously I'm familiar with, how informed he is about what's going on in Iran. But let's go into what's happening now. Do you think everything has been handled correctly? What do you think has been mishandled? Because, there's a lot of criticism from the left and from the right. And I think across the world, really, as far as how Trump has been handling everything. So that by that, I mean, in the sense of, military action, what's been accomplished so far, the enriched uranium is still in Iran. There hasn't been boots on the ground yet. The IRGC is still largely in control of Iran. And the Strait of Hormuz was previously opened, where now they're trying to enforce a toll, which essentially empowers Iran, So would you call this a win so far? Because Trump, President Trump has said this is a win. We've already won this war. The regime has been changed already. So let's get into those two things. Do you think this is a W so far, and would you say the regime has changed?
So before we touch my answer on as far as military strategy, let's go a little further back to where before it started, right? It was mostly diplomacy was trying to be used, and that's usually the first avenue before you reach what's happening right now, conflict wise. Iranian regime with the Ayatollah, the previous one, the previous leader, the individual decided to be very belligerent and send a whole bunch of rockets to Israel, attacking them, which kind of started all this back and forth. U.S. did not get involved in the beginning. It was more like, okay, this is them. We're going to support Israel. But it wasn't until the whole issue with the nuclear weapons where the Iranian government said they had over 60% enriched, which their thought is we are going to have a nuclear weapon. So this is what prompted the actions. P. Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs General came across Trump and gave him the layout, said this is what's going on over there. Trump ultimately made the decision and asked him before he actually did this. He asked, is this something you guys recommend? Because he's not going to just jump into it because he doesn't think this is the best avenue. He wanted to do diplomacy. They his military advisors said, hey guys, you definitely, we need to act. We can't just sit around and just be passive on this. We need to do something. So when Trump actually made that call, that's when Operation Epic Fury came about. And militarily wise, how they handled this as far as strategically what they did, this is probably the most impactful operation as far as kind of like dismantling a government's power. That's been handled to a way that's probably going to be written in history books of like top tier military strategy on how to kind of weaken a government to the point where they're desperate now for a deal. They want to go back to diplomacy. Like he brought them to their knees, but at the other side of the coin is what the other side is arguing is the War Powers Act. They want to limit the president's powers, but Article 2 in the Constitution allows the president to do any action militarily without Congress approval because we have no declaration of war. Even though they're calling this a war, there's no declaration. Congress is the only one that can do that. The POTUS can't do that. So what we can do is we can have limited military operations to take certain targets out. And as long as that mission is being very controlled and structured and doesn't blow up into multiple like countries getting involved and all that stuff, which is what they were trying to avoid in the beginning. They kind of pushed Iran into a point to where they thought they had the backing of their neighbors. And all their neighbors were like, sorry, no, we ain't cool with this. So we're backing the US. First ones to announce it was Saudis, and then UAE came up right behind them. And then Iran started attacking their neighbors. So it's like Iran, it made Iran look like they were like kind of Wild West, right? So everybody was on target. Everyone was on notice, which meant within the first 2 weeks, he took out all the leadership. It was like the first 2 weeks of that conflict.
I think honestly, it was the first day when he took out the main leadership because they were all in the
Well, the
same.
Ayatollah, yeah, he was taken out. But I think in 2 weeks, every top government official
Yeah,
in Iran was gone. That's unheard of. And in any military operations, like unheard of. So to be able to do something like that and the precision that they had in those strikes, it kind of made things open up as far as like military strategy wise from that aspect. Like this was handled very, very well. If there was a mishap, the mishap was Trump's humanity to wanting to do a deal with diplomacy.
Okay.
If there was ever a weakness, it's his kindness. He talks tough, but he's not someone who would risk civilians' lives for the sake of regime change. He wants the government and the military in Iran to say, "We give up. We're going to surrender. We're going to give up our stuff. We're going to let the people take over." That's the only thing I would say for a weakness on a conservative side, liberal side. The dude could cure cancer, and they're going to hate him. So it's like nothing he
Yeah.
does is right. We already know this. So
Um, I do have to slightly disagree with you on something though.
good.
As far as Trump's weakness being his kindness, I do think he's emotionally invested in Iranian people becoming free. I think more than people give him credit. Because he gave an interview where he talked about what happened in 2022, as far as like the women movement, where everybody removed their hijab and they killed thousands of people in the streets, just like they did a couple months ago. And I'm assuming that Mossad had shared some actual footage with him because during that interview, he started mentioning, I watched them give out headshots, snipers, to hundreds of women from off top of the roofs. And the way he was talking about it, I'd never really seen him that emotional. You could tell it had an impact on him. And he said it. He has a lot of Iranian friends. He's from New York City. He's a big business guy.
Yeah,
He's crossed paths with a lot of Iranian people. So he's very familiar with the culture. And he's been invested in this regime change for over 40 years. On record, he's been talking about
yeah,
it. So, I mean, this isn't like a last minute thing that people always say that, oh, Netanyahu just, told him a bunch of bullshit and signed him up for this war, which I don't agree with at all because he's been talking about this for decades. This isn't something that
yeah,
Netanyahu got in his ear. Granted, Netanyahu has been talking about Iran having nuclear weapons for decades, but
yeah.
I wouldn't credit this to Netanyahu getting in his ear at all. He's wanted to do this for a long time.
Well, I get
How,
that.
However,
I,
I will say this though. When you said his weakness is his kindness, I don't necessarily think that he's trying to get this deal done through diplomacy and an agreement because he wants to save Iranian lives. I think he realizes that the only way to do a regime change is boots on the ground, and he does not want to do that because both sides are completely against that, and that's just not an option at this point. Like they're not going to do boots on the ground unless it's just to purely get the uranium out of the country. Um, So that's pretty much the only thing that I disagree with you on. And I think the only way is to arm the Iranian people to do a regime change ourselves. And that's going to
right.
be a civil war. That's going to take some time. It's not going to be something that's done in a couple of months. Because again, it's a small portion of Iran, but Iran is 92 million people strong. So,
Right.
a small portion of that is still 10, 15 million people that you have to
Yeah.
fight off or at least get them to surrender. So it's going to take a while. But what do as far as what's happened so far, do you think we're going to have round 2 or do you think this ceasefire, like where do we go from here? Because it's kind of at a standstill right now. Everybody's kind of confused. Nobody really knows what the direction is.
So as of I think Friday evening, Trump came out saying that this conflict is done. There's no more because of the 60-day window that he had. He hit it, so he had to stop. He ceased all military operations as far as that. But the blockade is not a military operation, so he can still do that. There's no limit on how long he can do this. So that's what's still happening because it's been effective. So he's like, okay, we're going to migrate away from this because we did what we needed to do inside of Iran and we took out the Navy. So, like, the two things that were major were done. Leadership's gone, and now we have their Navy is completely decimated. Now we're just going to sit on the sea and just blockade any ships going to ports for Iran and also coming out of Iran. Now, in the process of all this, during that blockade, they discovered China was buying Iranian oil. So, so Trump is heading to Beijing to talk to Xi Jinping. So it's like, whoa, he's like, hey man, I found out that you did this. This is pretty much speculation, guys. Say, hey, I need you to stop doing this with Iran because Iran needs to. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Like this is any. He's like, you also have made your own voicing about terrorism because it was a world thing. It wasn't just terrorism. Wasn't just one isolated place that we were just against it. It's just not just us. It was the entire planet was against it. So the fact that our own allies are against it of this whole conflict with Iran is kind of silly. And that in itself, if there's any mistakes that were done, the EU screwed up big time because now we took troops out of there in Germany, and he's also saying he's going to take troops out of Italy. So now we're going to see a situation where those guys are at risk. They're going to have to like push pressure to Iran. So if ever we're going to see something where that country is going to feel the squeeze, it's going to be through the blockade, through the diplomacy right now, because like you said, boots on the ground is not happening. And I agree. It's not going to happen. I think as far as like the hypersonic missiles they said they put out there staged, if ever there's a round two, it will be Trump saying to Congress, declare war on Iran so we can go ahead and finish this. He cannot do anything else in Iran after Friday. So it's all diplomacy, blockades, and going to be economic pressure, sanctions, and whatnot. Yeah. We're not going to see anything else.
But isn't there a way to get around the 60-day to start a new war? Like, wouldn't they consider this a new war to not involve Congress?
Nope. He is not able to do anything outside of what he's done so far with the diplomacy part, with the economic squeeze, all that pressure going to China and actually putting pressure on China because China now has been threatened with sanctions. Russia's been threatened with sanctions because they found out that Russia's helping them identify military bases and whatnot. So this is just not going to be one of those kind of military heavy operations, more like going to be just the Navy sitting out there in the sea because we don't see Iran kind of recovering from this as like the current regime wise. Like you said, arming the Iranian people, I'm not sure it's going to work in this current state. I would need to see what Iran's going to do with this peace talk where they have this peace plan and then see what happens after that, because whatever the administrators are doing, the IRGC has a whole different perspective on everything. We are literally dealing with two different entities in that same country because none of them are talking to each other the way they need to.
Yeah, but regardless of whichever side they're talking to, because they're having some internal conflicts, obviously, with a power struggle. Regardless of what, though, man, I mean, making a deal with anybody that did used to be a part of the IRGC is not going to work out long term. Like, this is not. No. They're not going to sign any actual deals, peaceful deals with the region. Like, my whole thing is, if we can't go back into Iran, like, this is kind of a loss, dude. Like, it really is, because, like, yeah, we took out the military and all that, so they're not a threat in that sense. But if the uranium is left there, that was the main goal of going in there, according to President Trump. And if that's not captured and taken out of the country, what was the point of it? Because essentially what happened is now, they've become cockier because of the Strait of Hormuz, right? And also now they've become more radicalized than ever. So if you haven't removed the IRGC, they're more of a threat than ever now, because I guess the most powerful ones, I mean, they were all killed. So now you have very much these like rebel fucking bottom tier guys taking over that are trying to prove themselves, by being essentially violent. And also, again, you've killed all of their leaders. So, and letting any of them survive, they're going to look to retaliate. and they can't reach America, but they will reach Israel. So as
Right.
soon as they're able to, they're going to attack Israel, and we're going to have to take all this shit back again, and we're going to end up in step one again, dude. It's like I don't understand.
The situation with the IRGC is why it's so like hectic and why we have not had a peace deal yet. It's because they have this mosaic doctrine for their military where if top leaders get taken out, they break up into these little insurgents. So there's like multiple insurgents being led by these little factions, and these little factions now have their own leader.
Right.
So you took one figurehead out and created 10,000 figureheads for leadership within that government, right? The Ayatollah, the son, is has never been seen. Like after the blast, like we don't even know if dude's alive, right? We have no idea.
Right.
No one's seen the person, but the only person who has had contact is that general that's leading the IRGC. The only way I'm seeing that this could end is that they have to take out the guy who's saying he's running the IRGC and put the IRGC into a state where they cannot fight back at all, where they'll turn on their own so they could survive. And I don't think they should be let out. They should be put into international prison where they go to international court and they have to face their crimes for, again, the crimes against humanity kind of thing, because they did attack their own people, the executions they did. They all should be held responsible. Every single person that's serving in the IRGC needs to do that. The, I don't know about like the administration officer side as far as the leadership, what they're going to do with that. I have no idea. I just know the military side, they need to completely take it out. Just taking out the Navy is not one thing. Take out the planes. That's not what needs to be done. You need to take out the people that are on the boots on the ground, because those are the ones doing all the executions to people.
Right.
You
Well,
know, and
that's why I'm saying we need to arm the Iranian people, which Trump already tried to do. He
yeah,
sent the arms he sent the weapons to the Kurds, and they
yeah,
just never happened to make it to Iran. But I think
right.
that's the last step. Like I'm okay with America not going back to Iran and bombing again, because I don't think there's much more that you can accomplish from airstrikes right now. Like you're not doing a regime change. You're essentially just
Yeah.
destroying Iran at this point. Like it's kind of pointless.
So your thought as far as like speculation on what could happen, that's kind of like last resort, is to create civil war in that country and let them have at it against the military. But here's kind of like the bigger problem here is that Trump will then be responsible for probably millions of deaths.
But that's going
So
to happen
like
regardless. A
I
civil war
understand.
is going to
I,
break
I
out
get that.
regardless.
I get that. What I'm saying is he'll be responsible for it. You know what I'm saying? Like think
No, but
about
he'll be
him giving
responsible
those
either way. If there's a
I
regime
get it,
change
but there's
and Shah
one
goes in,
there's the direct and then there's the indirect. Indirect is what's happening right now. He's indirectly responsible, right? But the direct responsibility of him causing the civil war is different from the indirect effects of the operations causing civil war. Meaning, it's kind of like a consequence of the action. Not, I'm handing you these weapons and causing civil war of this country. And it's like if you were looking at it from the strategy of the military optics and whatnot, like how it's going to look for the American people, they're going to go, why is the U.S. going in and manipulating this this government the way they're doing it? Granted, we're responsible because of what happened 50 years ago. I'm not taking away from that. I'm just you my thoughts on this, my view, how I see it, and where it's leading up to is that's where it's going. So, like you were saying, that's what needs to happen. I agree in order to stop everything, but you got to look at it from what are the advisors telling Trump? What are his options? He's doing all the things necessary so Congress will stay off his back. Remember, these are the things that they're going to try and impeach him for because they're saying he's violating all these things. but he's been showing the Congress, look, I did what you wanted, and look what happened. Now I'm having no choice, but we have two choices right now. Either we arm the Iranian people or we go in there and take them out. That's the two options. So that's like he has to do the best so it doesn't kind of stain the presidency in a way where they're going to lock it down to where the president can't even operate anymore. And Article 2 powers are going to get completely ripped from his possession. They're going to modify the War Powers Act that he can't do anything. Like it's going to be unconstitutional, but if they pass the law, it takes years for the Supreme Court to even view it. They just
So,
modified the Voting Rights Act. It took what 50 years for that. That's like Jim Crow thing they were kind of getting upset about. They just now went and looked at that. So it might cause more problems for us in general, like as far as how we operate overseas. And in right now, it's changing because of what's going on in the EU right now. And Iran's kind of like is showing a lot of the exposing of what the left is really viewpoints. It's not for the American people. They care about getting rich and corruption. So it's like you look at those both of those things and you're like, whoa, wait a second. So what are we really doing here in Iran? Like they're gonna go, well, we want to stop the people, the innocent people from dying, and you guys are stopping us from being able to do that. So let Congress look bad, not the president. Let Congress look like they're the fools because the ones who are pushing back against this are all looking like fools now because everything that's been happening is because Trump goes, I tried. You guys stopped every single attempt. And this is where it becomes more of a political standpoint and it's just politics now. And that's where unfortunately, so the consequence of like your guys is getting your timeline of being able to take back your country is getting pushed back. And luckily you have the blockade. Like that's lucky it's working because if it wasn't working, we would be in a different situation right now.
so moving forward,
Mhm.
I guess the number one threat was the nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah.
So since we haven't got the enriched uranium, my main worry is if Iran wasn't planning on having nukes, they certainly will now because you look at a country like North Korea, right? Why does nobody bother North Korea? Well, because they have nuclear weapons. We would never dare to just go over there and try to take over or do a regime change. So if this regime survives, my main worry is that they will try to get nukes just to keep America and Israel off of Iran again. You see what I'm saying? And especially if we don't get that 60% enriched uranium, like that's kind of concerning, dude. Like that's a huge threat.
Yeah. Regarding that, there's I forget the term or the treaty that was signed, but there's a certain treaty that if a state becomes a nuclear power, they cannot be messed with. Pretty much, it's like a big no-no. So what's been happening is, I believe it's a UN thing. They've been trying to keep countries from retaining this using, especially those are high risk for attacking people for no reason kind of situation or have ideological differences and they'll attack for. And being a number one state sponsor of terrorism, can you imagine Hezbollah and Hamas having nuclear weapons? So that's the kind of consequence that Trump was looking at. Like you're gonna arm hostile country with a nuke, and y'all guys can't see the optics in this. And the way that looks with Iran's uranium enrichment and whatnot, I think what will happen, it hasn't been talked about, But Hegseth did mention it in passing, but it wasn't like something that's been brought up again. They send in a Black Ops team to go and grab it. They could be right there right now waiting for the call to go grab it. They could be already underground, already dug through, going through the strait. Like they found a way tunneling in from the strait to go from in there. So there could be several things that they did Mission Impossible style, going in like SEAL Team 6, going and grabbing it, and they don't even know it's gone. You know, that kind of situation. That could be happening already, but we can't guarantee this because a lot of times I say about 10% military operations are discussed in the public, and 90% are not. And there's a reason why they're not. So I can only tell you what I see 10% wise, but I can tell you 90% of it, whatever we're speculating, is pretty much they're staging already for it, or they already have it. They just won't say it. It's pretty much like look over here, guys, but we're already doing whatever it is we already said we were gonna do. It's already done. Iran
Yeah.
can't get down there. They don't have the means to get under that rubble. We do. So I'm not saying that these are the speculation, guys. Don't want to throw any kind of false information out there, but pure speculation. 10% of everything we know about what the military does, it's not revealed 90%. So we will find out later. There is a timeline for this peace deal that Trump will go ahead and make another attack if he gets approval from Congress. Now, I haven't checked up since this morning, but there's a 14 piece treaty that was, let's see,
Is it
ally
the new
report
proposal from
cargo ship.
Iran?
Yeah, we will not step back. I think Iran is retaliating with their small ships. That's what's been out there lately, attacking our navy. That's about it, as far as what I see. The only other thing that would change the whole dynamic of all this is what's happening to us with the current gas prices. That will change everything because, again, the touting the economic success of our country gets kind of clouded by the gas prices. Because if gas prices go up, everything goes up. Inflation comes in, and we're screwed, right? But this Iran thing needs to end to protect us. So far, there's a 14 piece agreement. UK reports cargo ship attacked by small boats treating Hormuz. So that's pretty much what we were talking about just a little while ago. And yeah, the 14 piece treaty was received on the 1st, but Trump doesn't know if he's going to accept it or not.
Well, I'm
They're
pretty
going to
sure he
meet.
already declined that one. I think he already
Yeah,
declined one.
he did.
I
I don't
believe.
know because he said he was skeptical this weekend, and he continues to facilitate talks between Tehran and Washington with Pakistan. So I'm not sure, but understand this is your channel and you got all the talking and everything. Can I ask you a question?
Sure, of course.
So with this peace treaty and everything that we have going on, what is your over under? All right, give you the over under. 60%. We'll do 60 because of the uranium, right? Let's do that. So 60%. The likelihood that you will see a peace deal before the end of May. What's your over under?
I think there is probably a 5% chance that you'll see an actual peace deal made with Iran.
So
I think,
under
yeah,
60.
I think this is going to be dragged out to the point that there has to be another war.
Okay.
Either that or you have to arm the Iranian people. Because again, man, even if they do a peace deal, they are going to retaliate. Like I know this regime like the back of my hand. They're too prideful. They're too vicious. They are not going to back down and just shake the hand of people that killed their leaders. You have to take out this whole regime. So again, I think it's got to be done by the Iranian people. So I'm hoping, because again, Trump tried to arm them months ago. So this isn't like a brand new idea that he would have to necessarily even think about. This is something that he immediately wanted to do and tried to do. So I'm hoping he goes back to the strategy board and kind of revisits that idea, because I think that's probably the most promising way to get actual regime change. And it's going to take some time. It's going to be a civil war, and yes, probably millions will die, and that's unfortunate. And I hate to see it happen to my country, but I think it's the only way, man. Because even if the
Okay.
Shah goes back tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
If they agree to have the Shah go back tomorrow, there's still 10, 15 million people that want the Shah dead. So those people, like, it's still going to be a civil war, even if the Shah goes back tomorrow with open arms and everything is all
Yeah.
well and we start dancing and celebrating. There's still going to be a civil war because they're going to try to kill him immediately.
Right. Okay.
So,
All
you
right.
know,
I'll be more optimistic. Not to say I disagree, but I'll do a little bit more. I'm gonna say over 60%. Let me give you my reasons. The fact that Iran keeps bringing up they want to have peace deal talks is a sign of whatever's Trump's doing is working. The fact that there hasn't been any military conflict outside of Iran other than in the street. They have not attacked Israel since this ceasefire deal. Okay. Now, they've violated the ceasefire by attacking their neighbors, but they weren't throwing anything at Israel. Like they don't have any more missile launchers. Those are all been destroyed. They're missiles that have been their warehouses where they create them, the factories and whatnot. Those have been destroyed. So you see a whole bunch of things that were happening, kind of crippling their military like strategy wise. That was like the first thing to do. The second thing was cripple their economic abilities to conduct their business. Now, the third option was stopped, which was taking out the power stations and the bridges. But that was always on the table. So if it goes to the third option, which is that's you need to declare war at that point. Yeah, you can't go ahead and just go back and start destroying the country after 60 days and violate the War Powers Act, which will get him impeached. Like to think about, we want Trump to stay in office as long as possible to accomplish those missions. Why get him impeached and then stop all this progress, right? So that's why he's doing everything possible to show the American people that it's Congress holding me back. If they really wanted to do something, they could have declared war, but they're fighting it. And he's like, why are you fighting it? You guys can see this is a problem. You can fix that. Like, help me fix it. So he's limited on what he can do, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're probably going to see some uh, because they keep like the last week, this past 7 days has been a nonstop Iran coming to us and throwing all kinds of proposals. Trump's like, "Eh, I'm good." So it's like it's been Trump's not taking them because they don't want to put in their no nuclear weapons because he's saying that's pretty much the deal breaker right now. You need to get rid of the nuclear weapons. You guys got to surrender, unconditional surrender, and you got to let the people take over and get established a new government. That's all he was asking. He says very simple, but again, we
well,
have to see what's happening.
those aren't. I don't think he ever mentioned like an actual. He did say unconditional surrender.
Unconditional,
Um,
which is laying down the weapons of the military, which they would disband, and the Ayatollah goes away. Like all those people, and he said he'll even help relocate them. He
yeah,
said
yeah,
he
no, I
will
remember.
help, which
Yeah,
is a big deal because that means that he's trying to be so human in this and protecting the lives, even the people of his enemies. Like, hey, I'll get you out of your country, but you guys got to say, cry uncle, pretty much what he was saying.
which
You
they
know,
never will. Again, they view this as a holy war.
and that's
They're
another
looking to be
problem.
martyrs, man. They're
They're
not looking
willing
to.
to die for
Yeah,
an ideological freaking viewpoint, and it's like that's dangerous because it doesn't matter what we say or do. They want to die for this
right.
cause. and that makes it worse. It's like, who's more dangerous, the person who has something to lose or someone who has nothing to lose?
Exactly.
So that, you got to think about those kind of questions, and that's what the president's thinking about. Like, I don't know how we can stop these guys if they feel like there's nothing to lose other than taking them out. And then he's like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, he's been very vocal on, I don't want to do this, but it's looking like that's what has to be done. And that's the sad part, because again, I would love to see an approach that would be through conversation. Y'all guys understand that there's some things you can't do no more. We can't have you guys in power no more. We need the people of Iran to stand for themselves. You guys are done. Get out of Iran. Go somewhere else, kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on. I'm sure we'll probably do a round 2 once we get some updates. So
Hey,
maybe
28
we'll,
days. 28
yeah,
days, bro. You want to lock it in on the 31st and we see where we're at? Let's do it.
yeah. Let's
I'm
do
down.
it. 31st. Actually, I don't know, because my birthday is on the 30th, so we might have to do it a couple days earlier, a couple days afterwards. So we'll see. But we'll, obviously we stay connected, so we'll figure something out in the next month or so. Next couple of weeks, we'll do a round 2 and kind of update you guys on there. But once again, Bvaz on YouTube. Definitely go ahead and subscribe to him, check him out, and pleasure's always, brother. Appreciate you being on.
Always. Thank you.